Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Leaders Lead Micro Series podcast. I'm Zach Husted, and I'm here with Ken Vennera. He's right over here. He's one of the great leaders that we have over at Warrior Rising. Excited to have him here today. He's going to answer question 5 out of 5 today. We break up these little podcasts into bite-sized pieces of information, so hopefully you can watch it faster, more efficiently through LinkedIn and other social media platforms, so you can get richer content and more palatable size pieces, easier to retain for you. So Ken, thanks for one of the first days that I reached out. You were eager to reach back out to me, and we've had a great mentor mentee relationship. And thanks for keeping the lines open of communication. It's meant a tremendous amount to me,
Absolutely.
and I've thrown some crazy stuff at you. This being one of them,
It's
and
all good.
you've stuck with me, so I appreciate it. Question number 5 out of 5, Ken. All right. How do you integrate insights from your background over your career to help innovate leadership development at Warrior Rising? And specifically, can you share an instance that led to a marked improvement or like a significant step change within Warrior Rising?
Absolutely. Great question, Zach. So, if you think about experiences that we all bring to the table, right? One of the great things about leadership is being able to pull in experiences that individuals might have that can make a situation better. If you just think of us as sort of biological organisms, if you will, and you think about like pets. Pure breeds are great, but the mutts tend to live longer, right? And the reason is they're not susceptible to all the individual kinds of environmental things that might break down systems, faster. When we reach out as a group, we learn a lot of what the pitfalls might be.
Mhm.
I, as an individual, for example, can only access my own experiences, right, in any given situation, and I can only apply my take on those experiences and my reactions and things like that. When I bring in other people into that same sphere of learning, right, or analysis, um, we start to understand different perspectives, right? We start to understand different ways of attacking the problem. There's this old, I guess, riddle or joke. I'm not sure. It's a cartoon maybe, and
Okay.
it's about five blind people trying to describe an elephant. And each of those five blind people is at a different point of the elephant. One person's at the trunk and says, "Oh, I think it rather is like a snake." And another person is by one of the legs and says, "Oh, I think it is rather like a tree." And someone else is by, is at the tail, and so forth. Somebody gets the tusks, and that's a really good analogy for how we perceive things when we're not looking at things from a group sort of dynamic, right? When we're not able to communicate with each other about what our experience is, we tend to look at things with blinders, right? Like we tend to look at things sort of in a shoot. And no matter what our experiences are, that's going to happen because, as I said, we each have our own reactions to the
Mhm.
experiences we've had. So I could have a myriad of experiences over the last 35 years of my professional life, but all of them are going to be imparted through my lens, like my view of how those experiences are. When I start to take into the views of other people, not only does the system itself get better, but my own experience gets better because now maybe somebody else will give a different perspective on the same situation that I might have experienced, and I'm able to look at things from that different perspective. So when you hear things like people talking about thinking outside the box, that's what that's all about, right? It's getting outside of our own space, and what better way to do that than through shared experiences and
Mhm.
information that we have as a team. So you asked me to sort of give a good example of how those diverse viewpoints and things like that have made things better. Um, there are lots of situations where we're planning as a team at Warrior Rising. We're planning different events, for the veterans and so forth. And this is just a small insight, right? There's lots of them that this applies to, and I could spend the next 5 hours probably giving you some of these examples, Zach. But just to give you a sort of small example, um, one of the events, the area where the event was going to be held had a sudden construction issue that they had to deal with. And so access to that main site where the event was going to be held was going to be restricted. So, in other words, people showing up at the event in their cars couldn't necessarily park there. They could only drop people off and they'd have to go somewhere else. And, it would create, sort of a nightmare, right? So the first shot out of the cannon to people thinking about how to solve this problem was, well, let's just hire valets and people park the cars, for them, right? Well, okay, but valets come with a cost, and sometimes,
Right.
especially when individual labor is involved, it can be a really high cost. So somebody else thought about the problem and said, hey, you know what? Instead of valets, why don't we hire a limo service, right? Like, so we have a van that comes, picks up people in groups, takes them to the parking spot, and then runs back and forth, et cetera. Much less cost, still solving the problem effectively and efficiently, as well, et cetera. But again, a lot of people are prone to take that first shot out of the cannon of like, yeah, that sounds really good. Let's go with that. And not take into account necessarily that there's costs associated with those things. And that is as much as part of the equation as the solution to the immediate part of the problem or the main part of the problem. So that's just one small example. Like I said, there's probably hundreds more. But at the end of the day, the effect is always the same. The more input you get, the better you are in terms of the solutions that you come up with.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm part of a team and we're working through a program right now, and it's a little bit of a tribe, and it's how do you make sure everyone gets their level of input, and it's the group IQ rises versus lowers, right? And I'm super proud of the level of engagement that we have within the team that I'm a part of, and it's fantastic. The super smart people we have working on this program, and sometimes as you said, the first answer isn't always the right answer, and sometimes you got to challenge like, is that really the right way to do it? Um, and let the people think through the problems and come up with different ways. And you're right, the first time that someone comes up with the answer isn't always the right answer, but I think it's a really good pragmatic way for people to think through um, how to bring value to a problem and think through it through a group that is relatable in a very broad sense. So, thanks for sharing that, Ken. Hey, Ken, what can we do as a community to continue to lift up Warrior Rising? I think now that we've gone through 5 questions, and if you haven't gone through as an audience and heard all 5 of these, I recommend you to start back at one and go through all 5. Ken has done a great job of demonstrating some of the leadership, sharing the values, the vision, and what Warrior Rising is to give you some insights to it. But Ken, what can we do to continue to lift up Warrior Rising as a community and as a network on LinkedIn and other platforms? What can we do to
I
support you?
definitely appreciate you asking, Zach. As a nonprofit, we can always use all of the hands on deck that we can possibly get. Um, there's an old line that I remember, probably showing my age a little bit, but whenever you want to impact a change, right, you think globally, but you act locally, right? And so spreading the word among the people that are in your local community, political people, business leaders, other organizations, supporting organizations, things like that, as well as just, the general population, right? Your friends, your family, your coworkers, whatever it happens to be, and letting them know about what we're doing at Warrior Rising, how we're helping veterans help themselves, and what kind of impact they can make by joining our tribe, joining our team and helping us, to help the veterans prosper. We always need, monetary donations. I mean, we can't survive without money. But your time, your talent are just as important in terms of volunteering to be a mentor, volunteering to help us with events, volunteering to help us on our advisory board. To be an integral part of the strategy development and the pivoting and flexing that we need to do to make sure that we're serving the community, veteran community, as best we can. They're all key components, but at the end of the day, just being part of our outreach, and spreading the word about what we do on a consistent basis is key.
That's awesome. Ken, I'm once again I'm honored to know you, um, to be connected with you, in such a great organization. I just want to thank you for your leadership. Thank you for taking your time, um, to be a part of this micro series called Leaders Lead. For those of you watching who've gotten through all five of these in this episode, um, take a second, check out warriorrising.org online. Check them out on all of the major social platforms. You got questions about them, reach out to myself. Ken will be tagged in this. Reach out to him. We're happy to answer questions. It is an amazing organization, really driving impact. And at the end of the day, organizations that are driving impact, and driving meaningful change in the veteran community are something that I can stand behind all day long, and I'm proud to support. So, Ken, good on you. Thank you very much for being a part of this, and I just want to say thanks once again, uh, and thanks for pouring your time into me as a mentor, and thank you for what you do for me.
Thank you, Zach.
All right, thanks everybody. Have a great time, and hope you enjoyed this content, and look forward to seeing you on the next Leaders Lead micro series podcast. Thank you.